Everyone got me gifts on my birthday, except my daughter. She said, "You took care of me, but you don't deserve anything from me until you give me half of your properties immediately." I was surprised and couldn't understand until I realized her mom, my ex-wife, was behind this. What happened next was rather unbelievable. I will tell you everything. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout-out in our next story. Today's special shout-out goes to Glenn Smith. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. I never thought turning 62 would feel like this, half fulfilled, half forgotten. I had spent the last few years working my way back to peace, clawing out of the rubble left behind by a divorce that drained me in more ways than one. The house was quiet again. No more arguments echoing down the hallway, no slammed doors or silent dinners. Just the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the occasional chirp of the birds outside my sunroom. I'd earned this silence. I paid for it in sleepless nights and lawyer fees, in therapy bills and a heart that refused to soften. Retirement had come as a blessing. I filled my mornings with gardening, my afternoons with books, and my evenings with jazz and a glass of something strong. But nothing could prepare me for the ache that would come from someone I raised, someone I thought I understood better than anyone else, my daughter, Mel. She had always been headstrong, even as a child, independent to a fault. But sweet too, God, was she sweet. She used to bring me little notes when she was younger, drawings of the two of us holding hands under a sun made of yellow crayon and joy. After her mother left us when Mel was just 8, we formed a bond forged in fire. It was me who took her to school, who stayed up helping with projects, who taught her how to drive and held her through her first heartbreak. I was her anchor, or so I believed. I never remarried, didn't date seriously. I put everything into her because I wanted to give her the stability I never had growing up. I figured, maybe if I gave her the world, she'd never feel the need to look elsewhere for love or support. So when my birthday came, and the house filled with laughter from old friends, co-workers turned golf buddies, and even a neighbor who brought a coconut cake, I was in high spirits. There were presents, neatly wrapped, thoughtful, even a bit over the top. My friend Leonard got me a luxury watch I'd admired months ago. My niece surprised me with a hand-woven scarf and a photo album filled with memories. But Mel, she stood in the corner with her arms folded, no gift in hand, no card, no smile. She looked like she didn't want to be there. I noticed, but I didn't press. Maybe she was tired. Maybe work had her stressed out. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, even as that little ache of worry crept into my chest. After the guests left and the house returned to its quieter state, I invited her to sit with me in the study. I poured 2 cups of chamomile, something we used to drink together during long talks when she was still a teenager. I slid hers across the table, and she didn't touch it. "What's going on, Mel?" I asked gently, feeling the first shiver of unease. She looked me straight in the eye, her voice unnervingly calm. "You took care of me, sure. But you don't deserve anything from me until you give me half of your properties immediately." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. Maybe it was a joke, some twisted millennial version of humor I didn't understand. But she didn't laugh. Her gaze was steady, unmoving. My heart thudded once, then twice, then tumbled into confusion. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "You've got plenty," she continued. "You can afford it. I'm your daughter. You're not going to live forever." I stared at her, stunned. The words didn't come out like a tantrum. They weren't fueled by desperation or need. They were calculated, cold. And then it clicked. The phrasing, the entitlement, it wasn't just her voice I was hearing. It was her mother's. My ex-wife, Marie, had resurfaced in Mel's life just before she turned 19. After a decade of silence, she came back with open arms and well-placed whispers. I had tried to warn Mel. "She's not who you think she is anymore," I told her. But it was hard to compete with the fantasy of a mother who suddenly wants to make up for lost time with compliments and promises. "She's behind this," I said quietly. Mel didn't flinch. I felt something inside me crack, not like glass, but like bone. Slow, painful, permanent. "I've given you everything," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "And now you're telling me I have to give you half my estate while I'm still breathing?" She shrugged. "Call it a return on investment." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. You should go. She blinked, not expecting that. Maybe she thought I'd argue, or that I'd try to reason with her. But I was too tired. Not just from the day. From the years. From being the one who always extended grace, who always held on even when the rope burned my hands. As she left, I sat back down, staring at the untouched cup of tea across from me. The silence that had once comforted me now pressed against my ribs like a weight. I thought about those drawings she made as a child. I wondered if she even remembered them, if any of that love was real, or just something I imagined. My birthday ended with no joy in my heart, just a slow, sinking feeling that the daughter I thought I knew had become someone else entirely, and that someone else had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't sleep that night. My body laid flat against the mattress, but my mind paced back and forth like a man possessed. The ceiling above me became a movie screen for every memory I'd ever had with Mel, from the moment I cut her umbilical cord to the time I stood on the sidelines of her college graduation, clapping until my hands went numb. That version of her, the wide-eyed girl who clutched my hand during storms and called me her hero, was nowhere to be found. And the voice that had spoken to me in that study, demanding half of what I owned, felt foreign. I kept turning her words over in my head, trying to find some hint of the girl I raised, some sliver of doubt that would make this feel like a misunderstanding. But there was no trace of hesitation in her voice. It wasn't a plea. It was a transaction, a demand, one that stripped away the last illusions I held about where we stood. The next morning, I asked her to meet me for breakfast. Not because I wanted to apologize or explain myself, but because I needed to look her in the eyes again. I needed to see if there was any trace of guilt, any shred of remorse. She agreed without hesitation, and we met at a quiet diner we used to frequent. She slid into the booth across from me like nothing had happened, ordered a coffee, and scrolled through her phone while I sat there wondering how the hell we'd gotten here. I cleared my throat. Did you mean what you said yesterday? She didn't look up. Every word. My stomach twisted. You think you deserve half my properties. Right now. Before I'm dead. Because I raised you. She looked up, calm as ever. Because it's what's fair. You spent your life building wealth, and I'm your only child. I should benefit from it now, not after you're gone. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping before I could stop it. So this is about entitlement. Not love. Not gratitude. It's about security, she said coolly. And fairness. I've spoken to Mom about it. She agrees. There it was. The confirmation. Marie. She was orchestrating this, whispering poison into Mel's ears. The same woman who walked away when Mel was 8 because she needed to find herself, who only returned when it was convenient, when the dust had settled and the bank accounts were full. I should have seen this coming the moment Mel started talking to her again. I wanted to believe their reconnection was genuine, that maybe my daughter would find healing in having her mother back. But I underestimated Marie's talent for manipulation. She didn't want Mel back. She wanted access. And Mel, eager for a maternal bond, let her in without question. You think she's doing this for your benefit? I asked, voice sharper than I intended. You think she's guiding you, not using you? She's my mother, Mel snapped. She's just helping me see things clearly. She's helping you tear this family apart. Mel leaned back, arms crossed. Maybe the family wasn't as solid as you thought. That was the moment I knew I'd lost her. Not temporarily. Not to a mood swing or a misunderstanding. But permanently. She wasn't speaking as my daughter. She was speaking as Marie's protege, an apprentice in greed. I had plans for you, I said quietly. I had things set aside, properties, accounts, investments. You were going to receive everything in time. But you couldn't wait. You wanted to cash in while I was still alive. She didn't respond. I leaned in, my voice low but firm. You don't get to weaponize my love against me. You don't get to stand on the foundation I built and demand more while spitting in my face. Her face hardened. Then maybe you should have married someone better. The words landed like a slap. I stared at her for a long time, waiting to feel anger. But what came was worse, disgust. Not at her. At myself. For letting this happen. For thinking love alone would be enough to keep her grounded. For believing that sacrifice guaranteed loyalty. I stood up, dropped a few bills on the table, and looked down at her. Enjoy the coffee. It'll be the last thing you get from me without earning it. As I walked out, I didn't look back. I knew if I did, I'd falter. I'd remember the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest, the one who called me Daddy, like it was the safest word in the world. But that girl was gone, and the woman who replaced her had chosen her side. Back home, I poured myself a drink and stared out the window at the lawn I used to mow while she played on the swing set. I called my lawyer, told him I needed to make changes. Big ones. Start with the will, I said. Then the trust. Remove her name from all of it. You sure? He asked. Dead sure. I canceled her bank card. Removed her as next of kin on every document I could think of. I was methodical and motionless. Like I was erasing a name from a ledger. But every click, every signature, felt like cauterizing a wound. Necessary. Brutal. Final. Then I wrote her a message. I detailed every step I'd taken, what she had lost, what she would have received had she waited 6 more months. Her 21st birthday was coming up. I had planned to transfer a property to her name, open a high-yield investment account, even surprise her with a trip to Italy. All gone now. I ended the message with one line. You were right. I don't deserve anything from you. And now, neither do you from me. I hit send and poured another drink. The silence in the house stretched longer than it ever had. But this time, I wasn't comforted by it. I was haunted by it. I sat in my home office that night. Lights dimmed low, the faint hum of the desk lamp the only sound besides the soft ticking of the wall clock. The message I'd sent to Mel hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. My phone was silent. No typing bubbles. No missed calls. Just a void. And for once, I didn't feel the urge to fill it. I stared at the framed photo of us from when she was 6, her smile missing both front teeth, her hand clutching mine like I was the center of her universe. I used to keep that photo on my desk to remind myself why I worked so hard, why I stayed up late balancing books and woke up early to make pancakes shaped like animals. But now it looked like evidence, proof that something once beautiful had been real. I left it there, not out of sentiment, but out of resolve. That picture wasn't a gateway to longing anymore. It was a gravestone. The first thing I did the next morning was call every financial institution where her name appeared beside mine. One by one, I revoked her co-signing authority, froze the shared card I'd given her for emergencies, and even made sure she couldn't access the health insurance plan I paid for monthly without a thought. Then I contacted my lawyer, instructed him to initiate formal amendments to my will and living trust. Remove her entirely, I said, my voice clipped and cold. Everything goes to charity or to someone who's earned it. She gets nothing. He hesitated. He knew the years I had spent building everything with her in mind. Not even a token? He asked gently, perhaps thinking I might want to leave her a symbolic reminder of what she'd lost. I didn't blink. Not even a pin. If she wants something from me, she can buy it herself. I spent the next few hours in a kind of trance, cycling through accounts, verifying every document, severing ties piece by piece. It was like amputating a limb to save the rest of the body. Painful, unnatural, but necessary. I even combed through old folders to ensure she wasn't listed as an emergency contact anywhere. Medical forms, insurance policies, my power of attorney. It all got scrubbed clean. Her name used to be everywhere. Now it was nowhere. I imagined her scrolling through her banking app, seeing the declined charges, the frozen card, and the closed joint account. I pictured her confusion morphing into panic, and then into realization. That image didn't bring me satisfaction. It brought silence. A hollow one, but one I could live with. By early evening, the phone calls began. Missed calls at first, then voicemails, each one sounding a little more frantic than the last. The first one was short. Dad, I think something's wrong with my card. Can you call me? The second came hours later. Okay, this isn't funny. My rent is due and I can't access anything. What's going on? Then the third. The voice that once used to sing silly songs with me in the car now cracked under pressure. Did you seriously cut me off? After everything I've done? Her words weren't angry. They were scared. But I didn't respond. I needed her to feel the weight of her choice, to sit in the space she'd created when she looked me in the eye and treated me like a bank account. Late that night, a longer message came. A voicemail that started with a sob. I messed up. I didn't mean it like that. I don't know what I was thinking. Mom got in my head, and her voice broke. Please, Dad. Don't shut me out. I was wrong. I didn't mean it. I just got caught up in things. I didn't think you'd actually. She trailed off, then whispered the words I'd been waiting to hear for years. I'm sorry. And maybe once, that would have been enough. Maybe 2 years ago, even 2 months ago, I would have called her back, told her we could talk, that we'd figure it out. But not this time. This wasn't a misstep. This was a betrayal. And betrayals don't come with takebacks. Instead of responding, I sent one final message. No more explanations. No more breakdown of bank accounts or timelines. Just a few sentences that took me an hour to write. You were old enough to know what you were saying. And you were clear enough that I believed you. You don't get to rewrite the past now that the consequences have arrived. I raised you with love. You returned it with greed. And I won't let you disrespect me again. Goodbye, Mel. I turned off my phone after that. Just flipped the switch and sat in the silence like it was an old friend. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat. The loss didn't hit like a wave. It settled like a fog. Quiet. Heavy. Familiar. I had lost Marie the same way. Slowly. Then all at once. Now it seemed Mel had followed the same path, just wearing a different face. The next morning, I told Leonard about it, my oldest friend, the one who's known me since we were both scraping together money to buy our first houses. He listened without interrupting, his eyes sharp but sympathetic. When I finished, he nodded. You did what you had to do, man. You loved her. You still do. But loving someone doesn't mean letting them spit in your face. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I just didn't think it would end like this. It hasn't ended, he said. It's just changed. And maybe she'll come around. Maybe she won't. But now, at least, she'll have to do it as a grown woman, not a spoiled child. His words stayed with me long after he left. That night, I reopened that photo on my desk. I didn't hide it. I didn't throw it away. I left it right there, a reminder of what I gave and what I lost. I couldn't predict the future. But I knew one thing. I'd made my decision. And I wasn't going back. The days that followed were quieter than usual, but not the kind of quiet that brought peace. This was a different kind of silence, the sort that buzzed beneath your skin, made your ears ring with phantom sounds. I kept the phone off for 3 full days. Not just powered down, but tucked into a drawer like a relic of a former life. I didn't want to be reached. I didn't want to know if she was still calling or if she had given up. I just wanted to be left alone with the truth. And the truth was this: love alone wasn't enough. Not to raise a child. Not to hold a family together. Not to stop them from turning into someone who could look you dead in the face and demand your life's work like they were owed it. But the world doesn't let you nurse your wounds quietly forever. On the 4th day, I turned my phone back on, partly because I needed to check in with the lawyer again, but mostly because I needed to face the fallout I knew was waiting. Sure enough, the second it powered up, the notifications flooded in like a dam breaking. Voicemails, missed calls, text messages stacked one after the other like an avalanche of desperation. But it wasn't just Mel. My sister had texted me, followed by a call from her daughter. Even my barber had left a voice message, "Hey man, just checking in. You all right?" It didn't take long to figure out what happened. Mel had gone public. Somewhere between my silence and her panic, she'd taken to social media. A lengthy Facebook post, screenshots of my last message, a carefully curated collage of photos, me holding her as a baby, our father-daughter dance at her prom, a shot of us at the beach laughing under the sun. Her caption read, "My father abandoned me after I asked for fairness. All I wanted was to feel secure, to not be kept in the dark about what I was promised. Instead, I was cut off, emotionally and financially. I thought love meant support. I guess I was wrong. The likes were in the hundreds. Comments flooded in from people who didn't know a damn thing about me. This is heartbreaking. Parents shouldn't use money to control their kids. She deserves better." Even people I once knew, casual acquaintances, ex-colleagues, were chiming in with half-baked opinions based on a cropped screenshot and a sob story with just enough truth to make it dangerous. My hands shook as I read through them, not from anger but from the deep, cold realization that my own daughter had chosen to shame me publicly rather than speak to me privately. I called Leonard, told him everything. "Let them talk," he said flatly. "People love a villain. Today it's you. Tomorrow it's someone else. Don't give it air." "But it's her," I said. "It's Mel. She weaponized our memories. Our life. And you think she didn't know what she was doing? Don't be naive." That post wasn't written in grief. It was written to punish you. And he was right. That post wasn't about reconciliation. It was retaliation. She wanted to humiliate me into giving in. Make the public her courtroom, her jury. I didn't comment. Didn't respond. But the damage wasn't confined to a screen. At the grocery store, an older woman I barely knew gave me a side glance and whispered something to her friend. At the bank, a teller I'd known for years suddenly looked uncomfortable, overly polite. My sister finally got through one evening and started her call with a sharp, "What the hell happened?" She'd read the post, too. I walked her through the events, word for word, start to finish. By the end, she was quiet. "I don't know what's happening to this generation," she muttered. "It's like they think love comes with a receipt." "It wasn't just Mel," I said quietly. "It was Marie. She's still pulling strings." "I never did like that woman," she snapped. "You should have gotten a court order to keep her away from Mel years ago." I almost laughed. The court doesn't issue orders for emotional poison. 2 days later, Mel showed up at my front door. She didn't knock. Just stood there on the porch, arms crossed, makeup smudged, eyes swollen. I opened the door and stepped outside, shutting it behind me so she couldn't assume an invitation. "You cut me off," she said, voice low, shaking. "Everything. Bank accounts. Insurance. The will. All of it." "Yes," I said plainly. "Why?" she asked, as if the question hadn't already been answered in 100 different ways. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't point fingers. I just told her the truth. "Because you treated me like a paycheck. Because you let your mother fill your head with entitlement. Because you looked at me on my birthday, a day I should have felt loved, and made it about what you think you're owed. And because I'm not going to reward cruelty just because it came from someone I raised." She blinked hard, tears brimming. I was scared. "So was I," I said. "When you said those words to me, I felt like a stranger had walked into my home wearing my daughter's face." She took a step forward, hand out like she was going to touch me. I didn't move. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I mean it this time." "I believe you're sorry," I replied. "But that doesn't mean there aren't consequences. You can apologize all you want, but I'm still the one picking up the pieces." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and turned to leave. No tantrum, no outburst, just a quiet resignation that said she knew this wasn't something she could fix with a few words. That night, I sat by the fireplace, watching the flames curl and snap. For the first time since this began, I didn't feel hollow. I felt clear. I had loved her more than anything. But I wasn't going to love her blindly. And I wasn't going to reward betrayal with access to my life. I still didn't know what would happen next. But I knew where I stood. And I wasn't moving. The house felt heavier after her visit, like her footsteps had left a trail of emotional weight embedded in the floorboards. She didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't slam the door on her way out, and that quiet made it worse. I found myself replaying our final exchange over and over, not because I doubted myself, but because I was still searching for the little girl buried somewhere inside the woman who had demanded half my life's work as if it were her birthright. She had said she was scared, and for a moment, that vulnerability had pierced through her entitlement like light through smoke. But I couldn't allow that flicker to blind me to everything that had come before it. Fear didn't excuse betrayal. It didn't erase the public shaming, the cold delivery of her ultimatum, or the fact that she only seemed to want me back once the money vanished. Still, it hurt in ways I hadn't prepared for. I started noticing the echoes of her everywhere, her handwriting on a note stuck to the fridge, an old voicemail saved on my home line where she sang "Happy Birthday" in a goofy voice back when she still cared. I even stumbled across the Italy itinerary I had printed out, planning to surprise her with it for her 21st. It was still folded neatly in the drawer, along with a manila envelope holding the property transfer papers I had started preparing months ago. She would have gotten the beach house, our beach house, the one where we'd spent nearly every summer together, roasting marshmallows and building sandcastles until she was too old to be seen digging in the sand with her dad. I held the envelope for a long time, fingers brushing the paper, thinking how easily this could have all gone another way. But love isn't supposed to be a transaction. And what she had done, how she had spoken to me, treated me, it went beyond a moment of bad judgment. It was premeditated. She didn't just lash out. She sat with those thoughts, planned that confrontation, walked into my home on my birthday with the intent to take. I could see her mother's influence all over it. Marie had always had a way of dressing up greed as empowerment. "Don't be afraid to ask for what you deserve," she used to say. That line had sounded noble when I first met her, but over time, I saw it for what it was: justification for stepping on anyone who didn't give her what she wanted. I hadn't spoken to Marie in over a year, but after everything blew up, she finally reached out. An email, of all things. Cold and measured, full of faux concern and legal insinuations. "I hope you realize the psychological damage you're inflicting by withholding what's rightfully hers." As if I'd stolen from Mel, not the other way around. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Marie wasn't here to help Mel. She was here to watch me bleed. The next week passed in fragments. I spent a lot of time outside, trimming hedges that didn't need trimming, cleaning gutters that were already spotless. It gave my hands something to do, even if my mind stayed stuck. Every evening ended the same, me by the fireplace, sipping something aged and quiet, wondering how a lifetime of love could unravel in one afternoon. But somewhere in that haze of grief, a strange sense of clarity began to emerge. I hadn't lost Mel all at once. I had been losing her slowly, quietly for years. Every time she took her mother's call and got a little colder. Every time she stopped sharing things with me. Every time she looked at me like I was old-fashioned or overbearing for asking simple questions. I had ignored it, thinking we'd bounce back, thinking the core of us, our history, would be enough. But family isn't immune to erosion. Sometimes, you don't realize how far the shore has receded until the house is already half underwater. One night, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably hers. My first instinct was to toss it into the fireplace unread, but something about the uneven edges of the paper, the nervous curl of her letters, stopped me. I sat down, unfolded it slowly, and read. "Dad, I don't know how to make this right. I don't even know if I deserve to. All I can say is, I'm sorry. Not just for what I said, but for who I became in that moment. Mom got in my head. I let her turn my fear into anger, and I used you as a target. You didn't deserve that. I know it now. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I was wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. You were always there. Always. I just couldn't see it when it mattered." I read the letter twice. Then a third time. She wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't blaming anyone. She wasn't even trying to justify herself. It was the first honest thing I'd gotten from her in months. And it gutted me. But honesty doesn't undo harm. Her words touched me. Yes, but they didn't erase the voicemail. The post. The entitlement. I folded the letter back up and placed it in my desk drawer, next to the beach house deed I never signed over. She was reaching out now, but I wasn't sure she was reaching in the right direction. Leonard stopped by the next day with takeout and cheap wine, which somehow tasted better than the expensive bottle I'd been nursing alone. I told him about the letter. He leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "She's trying," he said. "Trying too late," I replied. He shrugged. "Sometimes too late is the only time people get honest. Doesn't mean you have to forgive her. Just means she's not lying anymore." That night, I didn't respond to her letter. But I didn't throw it away either. My next birthday arrived with none of the fanfare from the year before. No balloons, no grand dinner. I didn't invite anyone. I didn't even mention the date when Leonard called to talk golf scores. I let the day come and go like a quiet breeze, unmarked except for a modest breakfast I made for myself and the jazz station playing softly in the background. But it wasn't sadness that kept me from celebrating. It was something else. Something simpler. I wasn't in the mood to perform happiness. Not this year. Not after everything that had happened. The grief wasn't raw anymore, but it had settled into something deeper, like scar tissue, stiff but survivable. In the weeks after Mel's letter, I stayed firm in my silence. She didn't send another. Didn't call again. No texts, no late-night apologies, no second social media expose. Just silence. And that silence told me something more than any words could. She understood. She knew she had crossed a line, one that couldn't be uncrossed. And even if part of her still hoped, she wasn't entitled to my forgiveness. I hadn't forgiven her. Not completely. But I had accepted the truth. The daughter I raised was gone. The woman she became, entitled, manipulative, reactive, had replaced her. And while that woman might change again, might even find her way back someday. It wouldn't be at the cost of my peace. The fallout didn't just stay between us. Word spread, as it always does in families. My sister, once furious on Mel's behalf, had since turned cold on the whole affair. She called less. When she did, she skirted the topic, like Mel's betrayal was a splinter she didn't want to touch. Friends had their own opinions, some supportive, some cautious. "She's still your daughter," one said. "That's what makes it worse," I replied. And even the ones who didn't understand respected my silence, which I appreciated more than they knew. I didn't want advice. I didn't want lectures. I just wanted space. But space has a way of forcing clarity. And what I saw more clearly with each passing day was how much of my life I had given away in the name of being a good father. I had sacrificed vacations, relationships, personal goals, hell, even therapy, because I believed being present for Mel was enough. And when she turned on me, I didn't just lose her. I lost the illusion that all of it had been leading to something permanent. Love doesn't come with guarantees, not even parental love. And that's the cruelty of it. It asks everything and promises nothing. One evening, while reorganizing some old files, I found a folder I hadn't touched in years. Inside were Mel's childhood drawings, birthday cards she made for me in elementary school, a note from when she was 12 that read, "You're the best dad ever. If I could give you a castle, I would." I held that note for a long time, my thumb running over the slightly smudged ink. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt tired. Tired from trying to figure out which version of her was real. Maybe they all were. Maybe people aren't one thing or another. Maybe she was the sweet girl and the greedy woman, the daughter I loved and the person who hurt me most. That night, I wrote her a letter. I didn't send it. I wasn't sure I ever would, but I needed to put the words somewhere. I told her I loved her, that I always would, but that didn't mean I trusted her, and it didn't mean I had to let her back into my life. I told her the door wasn't locked, but it wasn't open either. She'd have to knock, and not with apologies, with consistency, with action, with humility. I ended the letter with a line that had haunted me since this all began. Love is not a transaction, but it is a choice. And I choose peace. I folded it and placed it in the drawer with her old note, the one about the castle. 2 letters, one from her childhood, one from my broken heart. Both truths, both parts of the story. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my routine. I joined a local hiking group, took a woodworking class at the community center. I started dating again, cautiously, quietly. A woman named Ellen, warm-eyed and patient, who never asked too many questions. She knew I had walls. She didn't try to climb them. She just sat beside them and told me about her garden. Mel never came back. Not physically. Not yet. But I kept that drawer where she'd left her footprint. Both as a reminder and as a boundary. Not a memorial. Not an invitation. Just a line in the sand. Because sometimes, the hardest part of love isn't letting someone in. It's knowing when to stop opening the door. Have you ever had to draw a line with someone you love? When loyalty is mistaken for obligation, it can break even the strongest bonds. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have responded differently? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories where family ties are tested and sometimes severed for the sake of peace. See you soon in the next story.